We're looking to maintain a balance, of course. We want to make sure we have a rigor to our faith. We want to kind of reverse the thing, though. It isn't, Paul says the law shows you how messed up you are, brings you to your need for grace. What he wants to add on is, now that you know you're only saved by Christ, get some spine, for crying out loud. Live like the new creation you are. And now Paul will talk about there is a new law. Guess what? It's the law of grace. He's having fun with language. There is a new law. It's the law of love. There is a new freedom. We are freed to be slaves for Christ, Paul says. Beautiful. He wants us on this pendulum, bouncing as it is back and forth. What occurred to me this week, I've mentioned this before, we're not perfect. So regarding this perfect balance of rigor and lackadaisical, of law and grace, of assurance that God loves me and assurance that God loves me too much to leave me the way I am, sit up straight. The balance between Luther and Calvin. There's a number of different ways to think about this. Given that we're never going to get it perfect, I have a recommendation for you, and that is to err in a specific direction. Do you understand what I'm saying? I've mentioned this before. When I get to heaven and we're making explanations for how imperfect we are, you really do not want to be in the camp of, I erred too much on law, and you've got Peter and Jesus and Paul and the mothers of the church saying, and why did you think those people shouldn't be at Genesis again? Review again how what you got for nothing from Jesus Christ enabled you to turn on someone else. Let's go over that one more time, Donald. On the other hand, if you're too loose, no, I love everyone, everyone's okay. And they say, hang on, where's the rigor? All you got to do is say, Galatians 3:28. I mean, just remember that. The prodigal son. You've got lots of Jesus teachings talk about this scandal, where you can stop playing the older scandalized son and say, no, the message I got was that I'll know I'm on the track when I'm feeling a little scandalized by how forgiving God is. Boy, how many parables are there about that? So if you're going to err, and you are going to err, I have a recommendation. Err that way. So here's this. I found this online this week. It reads, Calvinist health insurance company declares all conditions pre-existing. It's a Reformed Calvinist Presbyterian joke online. Yes! The TULIP is an inside joke. It's a TULIP. It's a Hollywood acronym for how to remember Calvin's thought. Total depravity is what he was all about. Total deductibility. This is too perfect. This is where we are, because Calvin said, guess what? You're so imperfect. It's all been there all along. And if you forget that somehow, that's where your problems arise. Today, I want to finish up with something that's, it's strange, but it belongs here in this discussion of Calvinist thought, this between grace and law. He wants grace first, then law. Here's evangelism. Yes. Hey, have you been saved? Let me tell you about Jesus Christ, because I want you to get saved. If you come to our church, we don't believe in this. Listen carefully. It's as subtle a distinction as with my mom's sentence. Here's what Presbyterians believe the message is. Hey, congratulations, you've been saved. Do you want to come to church and party with us? That's all we got to say. Calvin said the salvation piece happened 2,000 years ago. All right? Matter of fact, that's not even true. Calvin says it happened at the start of time. And here's why. In our anxiety about are you saved or not, what happens? In our tendency to want to turn faith, grace, into law, yes, I was saved because when I was in 9th grade, I went to camp and I went and I cried and we say, really? So having tears in your eyes is what saves you, is it? No, I went down front and we held hands and prayed, and I just felt this, and we really having a certain feeling. That saved you. Well, wow, how do you just swing that? No, but it was that first time that I said, Jesus, come into my heart. Really, you're saved by saying a magic sentence. Amazing. Calvin was so offended by this, he wanted to take it all out of our hands entirely. Really, you were saved because you had such an awesome preacher at Genesis who led you all the way. Calvin said, it's already happened. It's a done deal. He went further. There's nothing you can do about it. He meant that. I had a really bad day and I ran over someone. Calvin says that's not what we're talking about. Calvin said, it's all about God's sovereignty. That's the theme of the Reformation. God is God, is God, is God, and you are not. Not the cleverness of you. I was reading in my study and I suddenly realized that God loved me and had sent Jesus. No, I'm glad you recognized it. Good. Has nothing to do with your salvation. I'm glad you finally affirmed it. Boy, are you going to start living like it's true now? That's what the church is about. Come and celebrate your salvation and learn how to live like it's true, since it is true. That's where we are. You're not saved by human endeavor of any sort. Not your cleverness to say yes, not your pledge card, not your acknowledgement, not your magic sentences, not the preaching, not the Billy Graham trail, not the sawdust, not the music. None of it saves you. Only God. And Calvin just exasperated. Doesn't know how else to say it. So he says, you know what? It's done. It was done before you were born, before you were a glint in your mama's eye. It was done 2,000 years ago. And as a matter of fact, since God sent Christ, Calvin said, no, this is predetermined, the start of all time. It can't get any further away, my salvation. He wants us to rest on that. All right? Now you're saying, so what, everyone gets in? Calvin said, un momento, por favor, but in German. And he said, no, there are those who are damned. And they're also damned from all time. He didn't want you worried, oh, it was because she saw me eating meat. She saw that I cursed while I was driving and they lost faith in you. It was my fault. Get over yourself, Calvin said 100 times in different ways. It's all been predestined. We're living it out, and that should free us joyously to know that God uses us still in that long-distance plan. We might be the one person that God is using to save that poor person. And so we better live joyously, assured, rock solid of our salvation, that God is choosing us to do the most important thing in all of human history. But don't for a minute think that if you blow that conversation, you're losing your name on a book. That's just, you are so full of yourself and your activities. It's all God, all the time. All right? That's where it belongs. We show up with you are the Publishers Clearinghouse winner. Congrats. That's what we tell our friends. I would think that now you're this rejoicing and relaxed. You want to work with us on not just justification, that's happened, but sanctification. What's the proper way to live now that even we poor people have been saved for no good reason at all? That's what the church is. Is Mother Church too forgiving? Too open? Hey, there's people I don't want to be worshiping with. Don't get me wrong. There's people I wish that were more like me, easier to get along with. The lesson is something different. That precisely because we are, it's a good word, it's scandalized, Paul says over again. We're scandalized by the cross. Not just that it's a torture instrument. We're scandalized because God dared enter into human history and cut us free from all this lawful thinking. And that offends us. God's love really actually offends us. We've mentioned this before. I don't know when it was. I was here because I can see Marty talking about deathbed confessions that offend us. She was the meanest man in all her life, and in the hospital as she was dying, then she said, I know God loves me, someone pray with me, and now she's in? That offends us. We're so much wanting law. The message of Mother Church and the gospel of Jesus Christ is that we need to let go of that. As hard as it is, how self-righteous and justified and correct and smart and good and rule-following. You'd think we're a whole universe of firstborns or something. That we need to just let go of all of that and instead have more patting butts, I guess. The grace that overwhelms us, the grace that scandalizes us and loves and squeezes even us. Yeah, that is the most amazing grace of all. Amen.